So about a year ago, I saw a movie called The Gallows with a small group of friends.
Voice.
Voice.
It's getting voice.
I thought you said voice.
I'm done.
And I gotta say, it was probably the worst movie to come out of 2015 that I've seen. When a horror movie has a terrible storyline, and you're actually rooting for the killer to axe off all the teens, you know the movie you just watched was shit.
Thanks for hanging around.
It seems like even Rotten Tomatoes would agree. Then again, when this is the description of your movie, is it really surprising? However, I gotta give credit where credit is due. Even though this god-awful movie had me more satisfying seeing the annoying pricks get axed off rather than surviving, that didn't stop this movie from grossing over 430 times its original budget. So today, I'm here to list the top 5 overdone horror movie tropes that a lot of horror movies seem to be utilizing that don't exactly make them a genuine good horror movie. Terrible storylines. For the longest time, a lot of horror movies coming out recently have been terrible. Either the horror movie itself is just a shameless sequel to add nothing to the original story, but to make a profit off of it, or it's an original idea with a terrible payoff. Bad characters are one thing and a terrible setting is another, but a dreadful storyline is easily the biggest killer of a horror movie. I'm glad many people know a bad movie when they see the trailer, and they prefer to watch a different movie. But for the others that are just there to waste their time watching a movie they know will suck, they aren't aware that their wasted time and money ends up making the creator of the movie think of making a pointless sequel to an already bad film, due to the fact that it made millions at the box office, and in return you get another terrible movie. Yes, you can't say a movie sucks without watching it, but if many critics say a horror movie is bad, and you can see all the cliches coming from the trailer, odds are it's a bad movie and a waste of your money. In my opinion, the theaters need a break from horror movies for a while, so that way the horror movie creators can write a great storyline with interesting or likable plots. Right now it just seems like many movie makers are just trying to push out horror movies as fast as possible, without enough time to perfect the final product, which ends up leaving the people who paid to see the movie with a terrible and unpleasant mess. As I've said before, whenever I watch a horror movie, I want to be genuinely scared by a great horror movie. Sadly, it seems I'll have to keep waiting for that great horror movie to truly satisfy me. Because at the moment, the only thing scary about modern horror movies is the fact that there will always be a crowd of people suckered into yet another waste of time and money. One dead cop. The use of cops in movies can add to the realism of there being authorities at our side when the protagonist is in danger. It also shows how they can be used to take down the antagonist. So why is it that the people we expect to help the protagonist when they're in peril are the same people that are usually the most idiotic people that can't listen to a single thing the victims are saying without being a little skeptical, which can usually lead to their inevitable death?
Get away from him! But he stopped breathing! No!
Or in some cases, they just act like fucking nutjobs and get themselves killed either way, questioning what the point of the scene was, besides just an opportunity for the antagonist to score an easy kill.
I know how to use this.
Was it worth it, dumb fuck? What could have been an awesome thing to add to the story is now an overdone cliche that doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. And having side characters for the sole purpose of getting axed off serves no purpose to the story, but just to add a useless body count. It's an easy fix, but it just seems movie makers care more about the bloodbath, rather than the focus of a steady storyline. No common sense. Okay, this one is kinda hard to take in, but let me explain. See, I know the mistakes that the characters make in movies are supposed to affect the storyline and show how they can progress past their mistakes. It shows the struggle of what they go through at first, until they start to look for ways to get past the trouble. Throughout the story, you can see them progress through obstacles that others wouldn't be daring enough to go through. In horror movies, the antagonist is usually not human, but someone that was once human, but is now a demon or a beast. That or a creature of a certain species. And when these characters get an understanding of these enemies, at the climax when it's time to face off against the foe, it is satisfying when the antagonist is defeated and the characters can now live in peace, resulting in the happy ending, also known as the resolution. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But when characters make mistakes that could have easily been avoided with common sense, that's where I draw the line. It just makes the movie bland, improbable, and pointless when you see these scenarios these characters almost intentionally put themselves in. It makes the movie feel longer than it has to, or it just opens up the possibility for a sequel, mainly just to milk the franchise for every dollar the media is willing to give for a terrible, predictable movie. And for whatever reason, the movie still makes a lot of money at the box office. Sequels to horror movies, or any movies of that matter, just tend to add nothing to the original story, besides just a way to piggyback of an already successful movie. How sometimes the time gap between the original movie and the sequel is already a decade in between. If the horror movie being advertised is a sequel to a movie that was made 10 years ago, not plot-wise, but just a new storyline to tie into the original, odds are it's not going to be a good movie. That's all I could really say about this one. I don't mind characters making mistakes in movies, just as long as I can see the possibility of it happening in real life, rather than just an idiotic way to make the movie drag on much longer than it needs to. 'Cause that would be the real horror. Kill 'em all. Having likable characters in movies can get you invested in the story. They help by adding the human aspect that is needed in horror movies. So when a character that you're invested in is near his or her end, it takes a toll on you when the antagonist kills them off. It's a good setup because it shows how the villain shows no mercy on the characters, which builds up the tension, and gets you on the edge of your seat when these characters are in peril, hoping they can find a way to survive the attack from the killer. And after all the trouble the characters go through, it is breathtaking seeing them fight for their lives through their trials and tribulations, to eventually come out on top and flee from danger. By the end you see how remarkable and strong these characters really are, which makes us love them, thus keeping them memorable. And that is how you make a great character out of a horror movie. If only all the characters in horror movies were easy to get interested in, cause when you watch a horror movie with protagonists that look like they are intentionally trying to piss you off with their wretched personalities, you quickly lose interest in the characters, the scenery, the terror, and eventually the story. Most of the characters are just mindless teens running aimlessly through places they aren't even familiar with, or just teens that don't have any redeemable or likable qualities, which in return makes them pretty disposable, which gets to the point that I just want to see them get killed off so the movie can end faster. I understand it's hard to make every character interesting, but it's not hard to make them likable. It becomes a bigger issue when you can't even make the definitive main character likable. If we can't even get invested in the main character, who is supposed to keep the story balanced and interesting, something is clearly going wrong. Even if the main character is keeping the film well balanced, that doesn't mean that the rest of the cast should just act like a bunch of pests. I really want to see a genuine scary movie with likable characters, I really do. But nobody likes a damsel in distress, or a sad excuse for a body count. Jumpscares. There is no doubt in my mind that jumpscares are what have ruined modern horror movies as a whole, and they still haven't learned from their mistakes. A good way to get a scare out of the crowd is to build up suspense from the cast.
I'm trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
The scenery. Low music to set the mood. And finally, the full reveal, which is the most climactic. And when all these pieces are put together at the right time, you get a genuinely scary movie with a genuinely scary antagonist, which gives us the horror element that is supposed to combine with a human element in a horror movie, which succeeds with a nightmarish payoff. It's a difficult process, yes, but when it's done right, there's no way to deny the fear it gives off. But nowadays it seems movie makers seem to replace genuine scares with overly loud music, and most frequently, sudden loud pop-ups that really have no reason. Now what purpose did that serve besides being a cheap scare for the viewers? I mean, that's all it really was. A cheap scare. It's easily one of the biggest problems with modern horror movies that have become more frequent in recent years. Let the scenery and characters get the reaction out of your viewers, not the sudden loud noises and pop-ups you put in. So with that being said, there is no need for jump scares to be used in movies. It replaces good writing and effort with cheap tricks and bullshit. And that is what could ruin a horror movie. And for fuck's sake, do not use a jump scare to end your horror movie. I mean, of course I'm gonna mute the jump scare. I mean, I just trashed on jump scares for like a minute. Why would I keep it in? After 5 months in the making, I'm proud to say that this video is finally over. Originally I wanted this video done about probably a few months ago already, but I got a little bit lazy with the editing. Then so much time passed by that I wanted this video done around Halloween day, cause, well, I feel like that would be the perfect day to upload this type of video. But of course I got lazy again. But you know what, the fact that it's done at all, that's all I care about. So how do you feel about these horror movie cliches? Is there any cliches that I left out? Let me know in the comments. I'm always curious about what people think about modern horror movies cause, well, it's a big topic that I'm always interested in. I do plan on making more videos in the future, but I do plan on going at my own speed, just so I don't wear myself out, cause, yeah, in the making of this video, I have worn myself out quite a bit. Well, all I could say is, if you've made it in the end of this video, I'd like to tell you thanks for watching.
Ugh.